Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. And my partner steps aside. This is called channeling. And it's mysterious to many. It's beautiful to us. It is a method whereby the multi-dimensional source of creation, which many of you call sacredness and God, has a chance to communicate with that which you have called humanism. And in the process, we call it soul communication. And it's different, dear ones, than human communication. And so we would like to start a series of channelings that would include the explanation of what we have called soul communication. Let us begin with some basics. No, let us not. Let us begin with some basics. We know who you are in this room. Dear ones, I want to teach. But not without first acknowledging the family. I want to teach you about you. Everything I'm going to do in this chair that my partner has allowed me to do, as he steps aside, he doesn't know what's coming. He's practiced this. He's practiced not knowing what's coming. He's practiced allowance. Without filters. I'm going to explain that eventually. And so I am open in this portal, which you call channeling, to allow for a third language to come flowing in that you can feel in an interdimensional way that is not with words and not linear. And some of you will. This particular channel is being published, and some of you are listening and reading. And this is open to you as well, for I know of the potential of your listening and reading. Odd as it may sound to you, this is part of the interdimensional potentials that God has as the central source. The potentials of your awakening itself, that you would pick it up and look at it. It's there. We see it as reality even before it happens. We got to start with the basics. Human consciousness is complex. There will come a day when scientists may consider human consciousness as a branch of physics, because it does not follow the patterns of linear physics, even the patterns of quantum physics, because it is what they would call biased in directions of personality, events, akash. It's complicated. So the rules would be very, very basic, but they're outside of that, which is three-dimensional physics as it is known today. And so to describe communications in this fashion goes beyond the limits of any understood science. It challenges you to think differently, act differently. Soul communication. And there are two ways. Communications from things to you that are multidimensional, and from you to them, which is multidimensional. There is the difference between linear and non-linear communications. I am going to explain it the best I can, with explanations perhaps I've not given before. I want you to consider for a moment you have an old typewriter. And you are typing along, and as you type along, you will see the letters on the page, one after another, appear. Pretty soon you have words and then sentences and then thought groups. This is linear communication. Now what you are beholding at the moment, whether you're reading or hearing, is the same. One word after another. In a structure for the language of my partner. It is linear. It is in a row, in a line, like the typewritten words on the page. That is linear communication. That is human communication. Non-linear communication would be as follows. Now pay attention, for this is going to be what my partner calls a stretch. Pretend that the typewriter is stuck. And you can type all day long, but you're only going to have one image. Every letter is going to show itself over the other. You type away, it does not advance at all. It simply types over itself, one letter. Now, what would you see on the page, dear one, at the end of a long letter to a friend? A smudge. All the letters piled up, inking over one another. You'd have no idea. You would look at it and you'd be sorry that the typewriter failed and you hadn't noticed. Now consider for a moment somebody comes along and they have non-linear communication skills. They would look at the smudge and see the letter. And that's as clear as I can make it. They're conceptual. They would see the thought that went into it. They would see the linearity outside of its linearity. The letters are there, dear ones, but they're not there in linear form. They're all together as a group. Therefore, a non-linear communicator will see the smudge and see the entire letter. Now, there's an attribute of this, and it's difficult to describe to you. And it's out of the logic that you would have, and yet it is. And so let me try to explain it. My partner goes slowly, so this will be understood. When the conceptual person looks at the smudge, they're looking at something that exists already. A letter has been typed. So they're not making something up. They are simply reading something in a non-linear way. The letter has been written, oddly, all in one smudge, but it has been written. There is an attribute of a non-linear mind, which you call autism, that you should study. There are many autistic human beings who can tell you the day of the week of a future date in any year, in any month. If you would ask that person, what is the day of the week in May of 2035? And they would come up with it, maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And it would be there, and they would do it instantly. You would gasp at their computational efforts. And here is the answer. Computation has nothing to do with it. It's not a formula. It's not math. It exists. And so it is known. You can go to any computer that is calendar friendly and find that information because it already exists. It's a concept that has already been developed and known. The nonlinear mind, therefore, is able to go to it and interpret it instantly because they see the concept. They're not calculating anything. Now you know the difference between linear and nonlinear. There's a lot of communication that wants to come to you from all manner of sources. So I'm going to start the list. Channeling is what you're hearing right now. My partner has practiced it for 23 years. When he started, it was ugly. For we're not speaking to him in a linear fashion. You see, he is a master interpreter of nonlinear concepts coming through his pineal. Now, I am speaking to him in his real time, and he is interpreting. So it sounds like a flow of linear words, but it's a thought group that I keep giving him over and over. You see, we have practiced together. We both had to adjust. When we started, I gave him the concept like the letter in one smudge, like that. And then he had to remember what it said and give you the channeling, and he wasn't very good at it. And then we realized that if we kept giving him the smudge over and over, that he could interpret it in a linear fashion. And so we repeat the concepts. By the way, I just gave you the secret to graduate intuitive thought. Ask for Spirit to repeat the intuitive thought. Now, my partner didn't even teach that today, and I had to come along with the obvious. Repeat it. That should be your request to Spirit when you don't understand what it is. Repeat it. And have that intuitive thought then repeat it, so that you can grasp it and see it for it is beauty and its clarity. And we will. We want to meet you in between the linear and non-linear veil. Do you realize this is why Spirit has talked to humanity in quatrains and in metaphors forever? That's all we have. And the interpretation of these things then become puzzles. People reading Scripture, why can't you talk normally, Spirit? Because we are not linear. The channeling is not linear, but it sounds like it is because we continue to repeat the smudge. And even this channeling, all of it, as long as it is on the clock for you to see, as long as it takes, is all being given at the same time to my partner over and over, so he can see it. And so we begin. What is this channeling? It is the pineal opening up and giving my partner these communications and allowing him to interpret him through his experience, interpreting them and giving them to you. It is a form of communication that is open to all humanity, and you don't have to call it channeling. You can call it whatever you want to, and every single human being is open to learning it. Not necessarily for others. How about just for yourself? Some call it automatic writing. This is a communication portal that opens through the pineal for you, and it is not from the brain. And we've said this before. This is soul communication. This is multidimensional communication. It has nothing to do with synapse. Nothing. It is not a brain function. That's why it's hard. Now, there's many kinds of communications from many things. Let us speak of the difficulty yet again. Anything I'm going to mention from now on in this section of others communicating to you must be interpreted. What else is there? There are many things. So I'm giving my partner a list, and he can choose what he wants to talk about in the time that he has. Personal. Let's talk about personal. How can you hear what Spirit or any other multidimensional source has for you when it doesn't come in a linear fashion? And my partner gave it today, and the answer is through practice of recognizing intuitive thought. And not, number one, not trying to interpret it with your intellect. Do not let the synapse of your brain get in the way of God. Do I have to say that again? You will learn to put it aside. What is it that my partner had to learn as the engineer in order to channel? To get out of the way. To stop analyzing. If it's him, is he making it up? Is it from his brain? Or is it bigger than that? So for you personally, dear one, this is what you have to do. Now, there's many sources other than that which you call God that wish to speak to you in this fashion. We'll get there. But if it's a non-linear source, it's going to come through intuitive thought, not synapse. Where do we go next with this? Let's talk about animals. You love them, don't you? And what do you know about animals? The ones you have and are in love with, that you call pets, have personalities. And they can talk to you. And what does that sound like, dear one? What does their voice sound like? And you go, well, Kryon, you already know they don't have a voice. Oh, really? Then how do they talk to you? Now it gets good, doesn't it? Through concepts. Their conceptual thought groups are available to pick up, guess where? Through your pineal, which is the interpreter of multidimensional things in your body, not your brain, and will give you the same thought groups they have. And some of you are good at it. There's ones who are listening to this right now, called animal whisperers. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Why do they call it whispering? I'll give you my interpretation. Because it's not linear. Because it whispers to your mind through the pineal and comes in the thought group very softly, all at once, like a smudge. You know what the dog is thinking. You know what the cat is thinking. You know what the horse is thinking. The requests they have, perhaps the distress they have, perhaps the celebration or the love. Now this is easy for you. Easy. Because you all have felt this. You know what I'm speaking about. This is not different than the same muscle that you're going to use in meditation to listen to God. It's the same apparatus of your system. So is it true that communicating with animals is soul communication? Yes! Theirs to yours. And if you're good at that, why not go then and not doubt yourself? And be good at that which is within your own higher self. Now, I just gave away who you're communicating with. Your higher self is that self which vibrates higher than you are. It's part of your soul group, the core. And this is what gives you information from the other side of the veil, which you call angelic, sacred God. It's the same as in animals. Did you know, here's another one, in the list that I'm giving my partner. Did you know that actions are communication? When my partner speaks about the grid, and when you sense that which is crystalline grid, the battlefield, what has happened there, it's concepts. And it's coming through the pineal. And it's thought groups, not linear communication. Some of you are good at that. You are proud that you can feel energy where you go. You can feel the energy of a group. You can feel the energy of the land, which is the crystalline grid. You can feel the energy of a situation. And you're good at it. What are you feeling? This is soul communication at its best. It does not come from the brain. It is not intellectual. This is physics. You are picking it up through the pineal, interpreting it, and you get the information. Something has happened on the ground where you are. It may take you to your knees. That's communication. Beautiful. But you had to interpret it. Why is it that the communication which is so personal to you is the hardest to interpret? You with you. This is what the teaching is today, trying to open that up. There are many other kinds of communication. What about those other things and what I'll call universal communication? When you walk into the forest and the trees talk to you, what's their voice sound like? Am I getting through to you? You are able to hear these things in your own way. They are not synaptical. It's another kind of physics. It's soul communication, and they're talking right to that part of your consciousness, your Merkaba, your quantum field that makes sense to you because it's conceptual. Are the trees in trouble? Are they crying? Are they celebrating? And there are those of you who are hearing my voice and in this room who know the answers to all of those. Kryon, is it true that in the forest there are what you would call divas? Here's my answer. Are you kidding? Of course. Of course. What are they? They are multidimensional aspects of Gaia. I love it. When human beings cannot get that, they want to dress them up and put outfits on them, make them little, call them different things. Give them voices, put them in movies. They're beautiful, and you know they are. And they're everywhere. Go into the forest. They'll talk to you. Sit down in the grass and let them land on you. Now that's linear. I want you to picture that, and they will. They're not landing anywhere. They just are. They're part of the soup that is Gaia, that is Mother Nature, the personality of the love of the planet for humanity as it walks into it. It's a celebration of your life. You're not going to get bad things from a diva. You're not going to get bad information from hugging a tree. You know that, don't you? What does that tell you about how Gaia feels about you? That's just a few of the things when it comes to the subject of communications to you. Let's talk about the other one, and then we'll close it off. And we'll continue tomorrow. Now, my partner, it's important that you record all of these things and present them so that those who are not here tomorrow can hear the rest of the story. That is your challenge. What about you communicating the other direction? Now, you have got linear communication. That's all you've got. You do not have necessarily the tools for multidimensional communication. Now you can develop them, and many of you have, but in general, you've got linear communication. So what about you with spirit? Let me tell you the truth. Dear ones, we don't have any trouble understanding you because we are the master interpreters. We know exactly what you're saying. And it doesn't matter whether you're thinking it or whether you're saying it or you're just thinking about thinking it or saying it. We know. Because we're with you all the time. The higher self, which vibrates above the corporeal self, knows the psyche of your mind. And when you sit to meditate, we know what you're going to do before you do it because the potentials are there. You're already thinking about it before you do it. I'll give you some rules. Stop giving us laundry lists of what you want. We know what you want. Sit and say to us, Dear Spirit, tell me what it is you want me to know. Because we're already on board with everything in your life. Do I have to say that again? We're already on board with everything in your life. Come to us and let us talk to you. Just let us talk. And try to interpret the thought groups that come first without analyzing. Get used to this. But as far as you talking to us, it doesn't matter how you do it. Now, there will be those that say, well, there has to be wrong ways to do it. No, there aren't. No, there aren't. Well, Kryon, what do you think about religious groups who have to face a certain direction or have a prayer rug or wear something special? And what I say to you is, let them do that. It honors God. In their culture, it honors God. Is there anything better than that to prepare them to talk to us. The same love goes into their communications as yours. The cultural differences between you do not compute to the other side of the veil, for we see a human as the human, the corporeal piece of God that you are. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or what you're sitting on. Is that clear? There is no wrong way to speak to creative source. Well, maybe, Kryon, there isn't, but I've had a few times when I was yelling at God. And we heard you, but we did not hear the yell. That's linear. This is hard to explain. What we heard is loving frustration. Loving frustration. We heard the yell. We didn't see the anger. You weren't angry. You were frustrated. And that's the time when we want to surround you the most. The more you yell at God, the more there are angels around you wanting to hold your hand and take you if you'd let us. Next time you decide to yell at God, would you also open your heart and let us hold you for a while? Is that okay? In the moment of greatest frustration that you have, where you have no answers at all and you can't figure it out, can you just be held? Is that all right? Because we're here for that. Old soul, you got to get used to this communication. This is so available. Actions are a language. How you behave talks to the crystalline grid, talks to the Gaia grid. What you think talks to the magnetic grid, which we have called the seat of human consciousness. Without you saying a thing, that's another way of communicating to everything around you. What you say out of your mouth in linear fashion, the cells of your body hear. How many self-help gurus have had to tell you that you're going to bring to you what you say? Why is it that hypochondriacs bring to themselves the very diseases that they fear the most and talk about? Because the body hears them and gives them what they ask for. The body is listening. The grids are listening. Even the human beings around you are listening. Do you spin in drama? Here we are again. Is this attractive to other human beings? Have you ever thought about that? What do you want to show somebody about your belief system? That you're out of balance? And that they ought to do what you do? Think about it. How are you presenting mastery to humanity, old soul? What have you learned through all of the ages that you brought to the party today? And is it spinning? Or is it love? Well, Kryon, it's easier said than done. How do you stop spinning? I just told you. If you'll open your heart and allow these things to communicate, it's going to start a peaceful countenance with you. This is called awakening to spirit. Getting out of the old habits and the old fears. And starting to claim the part of the old soul which is you, available to you and to humanity, for those around you. So much to be told about how you communicate with others. Multidimensional communication. Those of you who are good at speaking to the animals, not listening, but speaking to them, have developed thought group communication. You're already on board. For the best kind of soul communication there is, you're starting to think out of the box. You're looking into the animal's eyes and you're giving them pictures, aren't you? And they're getting it, aren't they? It ought to tell you, this can work. Humans can develop multidimensional attributes and characteristics that are entirely consciousness-driven, sent through the pineal to anywhere you want. There are helpers around you, we've told you. Do I have to list them? Entities, groups, all around you that are not from here. Not just the Pleiadians, Arcturians, Orions, Hathors, from Sirius, endless. And you know what they have in common? Non-linear thought. And you can communicate with them the same way you do with animals. Dear human being, soul communication, we're going to open the door before we close to this and tell you this is something we want you to consider and to study, to know about, to realize. Don't let it be mysterious. I've just given you the attributes of to and from, or from and to. In the next section, I'll continue with another subject. What is it that blocks it? What are filters? What can you do to enhance it? Soul communication is part of what the old soul must get into and learn. And the answer of what it's going to create is balance on the planet and peace on earth. It begins here. It begins with understanding, demystifying. There is structure in these things. There is a benevolent system in these things. There is common sense in these things. We invite you to find it, for it will create spiritual evolution on this planet, led by the very ones who are reading and listening to this voice. Family, that's the lesson for today. It's beautiful, isn't it? All we want to do is communicate. And it's time to get on with it. Explaining how it works, the suggestions of how to make it better, even the very thing you hear now, which is channeling. Demystifying what some have called spooky, unnatural, weird, just because it isn't linear. We'll stand by for lots of things that aren't linear. And the one that is the greatest of all is love. I can't explain it, can you? Emulate it. And so it is.
So as we begin to bring the energy into a quieter place, a more receptive place, just let your body and your consciousness settle a little bit in this moment. And take a breath. And know that there is nothing for you to do, just to be right here with us, with the beautiful energy of love and family. And let yourself feel the blessings in the room that you create, that we create together. Feeling the energy of the cosmos coming in through the crown of your head and just settling for a moment in your heart, saying hello. And then moving through your body, down your legs, into your feet, connecting with our beautiful Mother Gaia, right here, right now in this room. And letting yourself just find the stillness of that connection between heaven and earth. And in that stillness is that beautiful heart of yours, that space where your breath lives, where your light lives, where the softness of divine love always lives for you. Even when we forget, it's still there waiting for you to take another breath and move through your body, your consciousness, into that place of receiving divine love.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Take a moment and honor that which is here. I would not tell you things that are not so. There is a maturity of awareness that is in the room, that lays upon you like a blanket of benevolence, as it honors the role of the old soul in the future. And what we are going to speak of in these short moments has been spoken of many times through the years. And we're going to give a summation of it today, pulling it all together. In this particular year, the year of 2, we call it year 2 because it is the second year of acceleration of the new energy. The first year being 2014, this being the second. Things are beginning to shift on the planet dramatically. Unexpected things to your psyche are before you. We have told you not to despair, do not worry, that it is part of a recalibration of everything. And we've asked you to see and feel the benevolence of God in all of it. And then there are the instructions for you. Old soul, you are beginning to recalibrate how you feel about God. What follows should have a title. And humans love titles, so we will call it Accelerated Awareness, the Rise of Spiritual Common Sense. It is time for you to finally understand and separate in a mature way the consciousness of the Creator versus the consciousness of a human. Many years ago, I told my partner to write a book called Don't Think Like a Human. To this day, the title is catchy, and many agree that this would be nice. Now, it's a prerequisite. And we're going to give you a number of attributes. I'll even call them items that are things to work on and understand and to realize that are involved in everyday life, and you will relate to these things because they are how humanity has worked with God in the past. We've given you channels through the years that told you not to take the consciousness of humans and place it upon God. And this is another one of them. Only this one is maybe perhaps a wrap-up in the reality of what follows in your lives for you to take this information seriously. Pass it around. Give others the information, perhaps by having them read or listen to these words as we discuss a beautiful, beautiful system. Dear ones, how do you perceive God? In an old energy, that is to say, the energy that humans have always been in up to this point, there has been perhaps a bias. And the bias is that you think of God as a parent figure. You even name some of your religious leaders Father. And the paradigm of parenting, therefore, is what you would then apply to the Creator of the universe. It's the best you had. It's honoring in your mind. But dear ones, in the parenting and humans to children, you have also applied all of the other human attributes that parents would have, that fathers would have. And they would be a list that is endless. And they would all be human emotion. Anger, punishment, control, do as you're told, authority, on and on. You have the idea that God is the shepherd and you are the sheep. And this has been used over and over in a very benevolent way of how you should then see the Creator of the universe. The father syndrome. It's the first one we tell you to break. 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 There is no relationship like parenting when it comes to the Almighty. You are family, but we are not parents. We are the family with you. We are your best friend, your brother, and your sister. We are spiritual lovers of humanity. There is no anger. There is no punishment. There is no punishment. Dear ones, your life here is by your agreement with the Creator in order for a test of energy, and that is all it is. You're not in a scenario of good and bad punishment. All of the things that humans do with humans is not what God does. How can we then show you or tell you? Can you understand the statement, the Creator of the universe is not a human? Does not have human consciousness, does not have human nature, therefore does not have anger, does not have punishment, doesn't want to control, and you're not sheep. Could it be any clearer? The closer you get to the source which is inside you, which is God, the more you will feel this arrangement we have. One single hand reaches out to you that is the Creator and is all that is, asking you to take it, not so you will be controlled as sheep, but so you'll be included in the creative source. The closer you get through your higher self to that which is this creative source which you call God, the stronger influence of compassion you will have on this planet. Like the masters that came before you, who were not angry and who did not punish and did not want you to be sheep. That's number one. Could it be any clearer? To change the paradigm of the relationship to the part of you which is creation. We're looking at all of these things closely. And we have so many of them. There are those in this room who wanted to hear this, who've been climbing steps all their life in order to satisfy something they believe that Spirit wants, who have suffered enough. I want to just hear these few things that you should know. Dear ones, there is no hierarchy. Could it be that there is nobody in charge? It is a human attribute. Don't you understand this? In order for you to group together and accomplish anything, there's a structure. It's human. It's everywhere. There's always somebody in charge. Always. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, even the hermit in the field, somebody owns the field. Someone's in charge. Somebody has to be there. Even in the middle of the ocean, someone's in charge. You'll say, well, now it is Neptune. Now it is Mother Nature. There's always a force above you. And you apply that situation, a hierarchy, to God. You have created that which is hierarchical even in the angels. You have master angels. You have ones that are in charge of others. You've got books filled of who answers to whom. And they don't. And they don't. You see, the structure of spirit, of what you call God, is different than you imagine. There is one consciousness that is in charge. And one consciousness is also the family. It is hard to describe to you a multidimensional aspect that you do not have. Imagine for a moment there was a consciousness that everyone had, and you were all in charge. If you had that, then there would be no followers. There would be no less than. You'd all know what to do instantly and would do it in complementary fashion with the others because you were all in charge. You saw what had to be done. You would then have the solutions all together as one. That is the mind of God. The angelic beings are not in a hierarchy. You say there is Archangel Michael. Michael would be the first to tell you there isn't. But honors the fact that you would see there was in order to facilitate yourselves and be comfortable in 3D. Do you see? It is time to get out of the fallacies of an old energy where you apply all human nature to God. Number 3, you always have to pay something to get something. You have applied this to absolutely everything in your life. Even physics sees a certain way of the way things work in 3-dimensional. Where there's no such thing as free energy, it simply changes its form. You've got to pay the price in order to move from A to B. There has to be a transition. Even in physics, energy must move this way in order for you to get this. There is a payment plan for everything. And you applied that to God. Oh, did you? So here comes the creating force of the universe. And the first thing you're going to ask is, what do I have to do? If you give up your energy, if you're going to count some beads, if you're going to do something, it's going to be to pay spirit so that you can exist as good in the eyes of God. Let me tell you something. You are born magnificent and perfect and always are. Always are. There is nothing you can do that will diminish you in the eyes of the Creator. Oh, you may disappoint yourself. You may disappoint society. You are here for a reason, and the test is here. You may make some funny decisions that other humans don't like, and God loves you the same. Did you hear that? And when you die and transfer energy for a moment to my side of the veil before you return, when you do, there is a party that celebrates that which you did, called living life on the planet and being part of the puzzle. Everyone. From the minister to the one in prison. Do you hear me? And this does not compute, does it? It doesn't work for you. Anyone listening to my voice, I'll tell you, you say, there has to be a punishment, a payment. You have to pay to get something. No, you don't. You arrived on this planet on purpose, and you didn't pay anybody to get here. And it wasn't a punishment. Why do you assign negative and positive energies to everything that happens? And you do. That is human nature. Every single organization that is spiritual, including this one, if you want to call it an organization, it's an organization of consciousness, has that in it. There's got to be something you must do to have the favor of God. And then you ask, am I doing it right? Oh, yes, you are. By being in the chair and loving God, you're doing it right. There are certain societies where human beings act like children who are spiritual and they don't know any better. And it still goes on. Charlatans who know far, far better will tell you that for a certain price they can forgive your sins or propel you in heaven or even affect your ancestors, and you hand over the money. This is still on today. Dear old soul, break this paradigm in any way you can. When anybody talks to you about reward and punishment and payment, when it comes to the Almighty, you tell them you're part of the family and you're all paid up, all right? There are those, so many, who besiege God right now, right this moment, in prayer, bending over and saying, how can we get clean in the eyes of God? And they don't know that they were never dirty. Who told them they were dirty? And why would they? Break the paradigm. Born magnificent, family and clean forever. Your timing, number 4, is not God's timing. And yet you make it that way. It's a habit that way. My partner even gave a full lecture series and recorded a video about it because it is so prevalent among you. Somebody has to hear this. You came today to hear this. When you get a strong intuition about something that may be in your future, you take it and you hold it to yourself and you thank God for finally giving you some instructions on what to do. You're going to go over here, you're going to start a school, you're going to write a book. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. And then you do it. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work spectacularly. It fails. Use the word. And then what do? You do the human thing. You say, what did I do wrong? How did I displease God? All of those things are simply running in circles of human nature and not having any idea about how the Creator works. If any of you at any time get a message about something that is coming or an inkling or a feeling, I want you to promise me you'll have common sense that is spiritual and see it for what it is. What it is a potential that may very well happen, and the synchronicity will be created when it's time and not on your clock. I want to show you why you do what you do, and we've discussed this before. All of human nature has the authority figure asking you to do something or telling you to do something, and you doing it immediately. When your father said, clean up your room, when were you supposed to do it? When your boss tells you they want something, when were you supposed to do it? And the answer is always now. So Spirit gives you intuition about something that's going to happen, something that's in the works, or for you, something you're supposed to do, and you instantly knee-jerk it into reality now. And it fails. Promise me that you will have the wherewithal and the maturity to say, thank you, God, for this information. It's beautiful. And I will wait patiently for the synchronicity that will begin to realize and fulfill this. For I am family and I understand the principles of synchronicity and the timing of Spirit. I want you to see it in the bigger picture. These things that you are working on are potentials. You may be shown something far before someone else who will be part of it is shown. You're going to have to wait for them. For things to come together in a synchronicity, in a society of free choice, they also may change. They may morph into something else, and you will be given that. And yet there are humans that are angry at God because they didn't get number one, they got number two. And when you ask them, well, number two was better, and you say, yes, but number one is what he told me. What did I do wrong? Not understanding. God does not have a list for you. These are energies of potential and the timing of Spirit, not on your clock. Promise me that you won't launch out just because you got the message or the inkling, but that you will wait in a mature fashion for the timing of Spirit and know it when you see it and be comfortable with it. Old soul, mature common sense should prevail. Number 5, the last one. Purpose. How many sales meetings have you attended? And they all tell you the same thing. In order to have something happen, you have to have a goal. It would be helpful to paste things magnetically on the refrigerator to remind you. Maybe you should go to meetings where other people have the same goals and reiterate them. None of that is what God has. None of that. And we said it before. Your purpose on the planet has nothing to do with your works. Did you hear that? There are sayings that some of you have heard all your life. By your works will you be known. Let me tell you another saying. By your magnificence on the planet will you be known. Which is you in the chair listening today. How about that? By your magnificence of being a human and going through this will you be known. Not by what you do while you're here. The magnificence of the old soul will be increased even more through compassionate action, and we have said that. That's what you're here for. If you really want a goal, I will give it to you. Compassionate action. Live like a master. And you will say to me, it's hard. And I will say to you, that's why we call you light worker. It's hard. It is. You have the maturity and the life experience on this planet to achieve all that you set out to achieve. In this life and others that you will live, by your magnificence will you be known as those who will create peace on earth and take it into ascension eventually.
That's how we know you, family. By your name in lights. Your name sung in the light form. That's how we know you. And that's real different from having a goal. All of the things that we have given you this day are things of human nature pasted upon the countenance of God. And it would include almost every single one of the structures of that which is spiritual in any organization on the planet. And we ask you to change it. And when you begin to do this, dear ones, you're going to find an increase in love, benevolence, understanding, and peace. You realize there's no more steps to climb to please God. All you have to do is open the door and take the hand of the family that you are. Could it be simpler? Dear ones, this is the message. Profound, complete. And so it is.